guys, my name is Erica Copeland and today I'm going to be teaching you about scientific notation. So your goal when it comes to scientific notation is to move the decimal up to the point that there is just one number in front of the decimal, and that number has to be between 1 through 9. It cannot be 0. And I've already written that on the board to save some time. But then something very important to know is what is the exponent going to be when we move it, positive or negative. So if you move the decimal to the left, you're going to have a positive exponent. And if you move it to the right, you're going to have a negative exponent. I have a silly way to remember this. All of us are very likely to know who Beyonce is, right? We all know Beyonce. If I was to ask you, does Beyonce have a positive or a negative personality? What are you likely to say? Think about it for a moment. Most people would say that she has a positive personality. I don't know Beyonce personally, right? But most people would say, based on what we have seen in the media of her, that she has a positive personality. And, you know, that she has that song, to the left. I don't know, that's silly, but she's got a positive personality and she's got that song to the left. So that's a silly way to remember that. Let's go ahead and do one example. Say that I have the number 3000 over here. That means that there's a decimal right at the very end. And again, our goal is to move the decimal up to the point that there is just one number in front of the decimal. So that means that we will have to stop right here. And simply you just count how many times you move the decimal. So I move it 1, 2, 3 times. I've moved it 3 times to the left, which means positive. So then if I was to convert this to scientific notation, I would write 3.0 times 10 to the positive 3. Now let's go ahead and do another example. Say that I have 0.00213. Again, my goal is to move the decimal up to the point where there's just one number in front of the decimal. That means that I will have to stop right here because the number has to be between 1 through 9. And then you just count how many times you have to move it. 1, 2, moved it 3 times, and I moved it to the right this time, which means negative number, so negative 3. And if I was to then write this in scientific notation, my final answer would be 2.13 times 10 to the negative 3. Simple enough. Now you have to be careful because sometimes they might ask you, whenever you're changing it to scientific notation, ideally you should end up with the same number of sig figs that you're starting out with. So over here, before I wrote this decimal, we only had 1 sig fig. And over here I ended up with 2. So that would not be ideal. This is a more correct answer because I did not change the number of significant figures. Now over here, we have a total of 3 sig figs and my final answer has 3 sig figs, so that's good. Now let's go ahead and do some examples in which I give you the scientific notation and then you have to convert it from scientific notation to not scientific notation. Let's do that. All right, so I went ahead and I wrote 2 examples on the board that are already in scientific notation, and I will have to change it into something in not scientific notation. So going one step back. So to do that, first, let me go ahead and look at example number 1. We have 3.12 times 10 to the negative 2. We have negative 2 over here. And I'm going to ask you, how can you cross out negative 2? Hopefully you said positive 2. Right? A negative 2 can be crossed out with a plus 2. So, positive meant to the left, remember? So that just means that I have to move this to the left twice. So my decimal's over here, and I go 1, twice, stop right there, check again, 1, twice, and then my final answer is going to be 0.0312. And you want to go ahead and check that you have the same number of significant figures. So over here, initially I had 3, I ended up with 3, I did good. All right, let's go ahead and look at the second example. We have plus 3, right, as the exponent, and I ask you, how can you cross out positive 3? Hopefully you said negative 3. Right? The opposite of plus 3 is negative 3, which means that negative 3 could cross plus 3 out. So that means that if I move the decimal 3 times to the right, I can go 1 step back. Right? So my decimal is here, and then I have to move it 3 times to the right. 1, 2, 3. I write zeros. I put my decimal there. You might be tempted to write this as your final answer. Ooh. But we said that we want to keep the same number of significant figures. Over here, we started out with 1. Over here, if I leave that decimal there, I have a total of 4 significant figures. So you don't want to do that. You want to also go ahead and end up with 1 significant figure. So how can I do that? By erasing that decimal. So now if I erase the decimal, I have 1 significant figure here, which is the same that I started out with, and that's it. That was everything about scientific notation. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave those in the comment section, as well as if you want me to cover any topic in specific, please comment that down there as well. Other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!